So this is the other thing that, Garland and Wyatt and a few of us were Alex, or we were looking at this, and it's like, we've talked about this before, I think a long time ago. And our friends, Mark Sloboda has kind of talked about it. Do you remember back when Zelensky won, people were like, he's an actor. He's an actor. He's an actor who won. Like, it's crazy. How the hell did an actor win? I remember us going over some of the stuff. But when you put it to side by side as to what's happening now, this is even crazier than it sounds. So let's talk about Zelensky's rise to the presidency that was played out on TV, on a TV show, and also facilitated, of course, by the Azov battalion funder. This guy funded the Azov battalion. And it's froze on me, but we're going to get into this. This is like very weird. There was an account that did an amazing thread, and you guys should read it, about pretty much from a Russian perspective of like pop culture, like what that show meant. And Zelensky was on the show, and it was a show where they were doing a lot of jokes that in the context of today are really insane, right? So just to summarize it, when Zelensky was an actor, he had a comedy show funded by Igor Kolomoisky called The Servant of the People, about a president who wants to join the EU and NATO. Igor funds the Azov battalion and later began a party in 2017 by the same name, Servant of the People. And then Zelensky ran, and he was elected by that. And Zelensky jokes about this in the video below. And I'm going to read the first part of this tweet too, where he says, this is a Ukrainian comedy show where Zelensky founded. He said, I used to watch it. This video is from 2014. Like, you can't make this shut up. As per Milkov's narration, this happened when oppositional media was banned in Ukraine. So remember when we were talking about the coup, there was a point where oppositional media was banned in Ukraine, where they began trying to get rid of just anything Russian and any other perspective. So this part, just to give you guys a heads up as to what the video is gonna talk about. Garland wrote that Ukrainian media billionaire Igor Kolomoisky creates a comedy TV show called Servant of the People with president who wants to join the EU and NATO. He then starts the party in 2017 with the same name, and the star of the show gets elected to president. Hello? Igor Kolomoisky also funds the fascist Azov battalion and reportedly has a controlling interest in Hunter Biden's former employer, Burisma Holdings. So this is a deep dive that Garland kind of went on. And this is all, he's also mentioning Burisma, which is something we've mentioned multiple times as to what was happening at that time, in that time period. Now, just so you guys know, if you Google Servant of the People, you will both find Servant of the People, the party, which is the party that was created, and also the TV show by that Zelensky that made Ukraine's president. I mean, the Guardian even admits it here. This is the TV show that made Ukraine's president. He starred as a president in this smart satire, only to launch a political party named after it, then win an election. I mean, they're admitting it because, I mean, it can't be hidden at this point, right? But they're just kind of throwing it out there as being coincidental, this sort of thing. And like I say many times, I do not believe in coincidences. So let's watch this video, and you guys are gonna laugh at how
this is Zelensky, the Ukrainian oligarch. And we've said this before. Ukraine is controlled by oligarchs completely. Yeah. Like it's just one oligarch fighting another. But check this out here. This is something interesting.
В это самое время на Украине появляется новый президент. Посмотрите, артист, популярный, не бедный, талантливый человек. Вы в этом можете сами убедиться. Посмотрите, что он говорил до того, как стал президентом.
Здравствуйте, дядя Игорь, тетя Валя и дядя Саша. Вопреки вашим опасениям сообщаю, что живу я хорошо, пока живу. Дальше будет еще лучше, потому что уже 3 недели, как я принят в бандеровцы. А как иначе? Иначе у нас в Украине карьеры не сделать. Хотя что я вам рассказываю, вы и так все знаете. Зарплата у меня маленькая, но это не главное. Ведь нам разрешили отбирать деньги и имущество у русских. А раньше можно было и у евреев. Но потом пришел главный бандеровец Кологомойский и запретил. Я, например, сейчас учу английский язык, чтобы забыть русский. В этом мне помогают американские наемники, которые у нас тут на каждом шагу. Знаете, я женился во второй раз на Вадике. Для нас, европейцев, это нормально. Сегодня наш президент, самый главный, который у нас самый главный президент, Барак Обама, пообещал, что мы скоро вступим в НАТО. Пока, естественно, на правах американского прихвостня. Если есть возможность, друзья, вышлите, пожалуйста, мне книгу Гитлера «Майн кампф». А то у нас разметают. Бывало, утром выхожу на балкон и начинаю делать зарядку. От сердца к солнцу, вот так. Что я вам рассказываю, вы же так сейчас...
It's funny because it's true.
Well, I mean, he called, he was joking. Obviously, this is comedy, but every single thing Banderites, you can only make money in Ukraine. With the Azov battalion, he talked about Barack Obama being the president.
The only president that mattered.
Yeah.
The West is making the choices over here. That's what he's saying.
And so I'm gonna go over some of the stuff because it's crazy when you look at it, in the context of today. So I said, to sum it up, Garland puts this bluntly. In my opinion, there is nothing short of how, and the U.S. is not immune. You can look at Obama, Trump, AOC. Leaders are created, sold with a certain narrative in mind, and then selected. Many times we have called our politicians actors. We've called it kabuki theater. Well, this is why, because this doesn't happen in Ukraine. People are created. These people are fed a certain line, a certain narrative. They become influencers, and then they become politicians. And this is something the CIA has done multiple times. Interestingly enough, the State Department and the same agencies were involved in the creation of Zelensky. So I wanted to point that out. And Wyatt went over some of these jokes because I think it's important to lay it out, right? He joked about joining the Banderites, only way to make a career in Ukraine, small salary offset by taking money and property from Russians, which absolutely did happen, and the entire cultural evisceration of anything Russian happened. Can't do the same to Jews because of Bandera's man Kolomoisky. So, I mean, it just tells you right there, right? So many U.S. mercenaries, and we will join NATO as American henchmen. Everything that he talked about has happened in some way, some form or another, right? Anything to say, Pasta, to that?
No, I mean, it's just what I said. It's funny because it's true. And that's why the audience was laughing, because the irony that everything he was saying was so true. And it's out in the open. Even it's like, can you send me a copy of Mein Kampf? They're out of it over here. They don't have it. And people laughed about it because they understand who's in those areas in Western Kiev and whatnot, and the Ukraine. So, I mean, it's just, it's hysterical. And just to hear the excuse from the Western media saying, well, there's not Nazis over there. There's a Jewish president, fam. Okay. Right. Just watch that. Watch what Zelensky said over there back then. And everything that he said pretty much came true.
Yeah, exactly. And also, by the way, if you really go back and look at the video at some of the audience members, there were some that weren't laughing because some of them were actually beginning to start living what was happening there. Exactly. There was a few that were like literally not laughing. So go back and watch some of their faces there and take that into account. So this person did the tweet. I'm going to go over some of the things they said because they're coming at it from a Russian pop culture aspect. And he says he's a funny guy. This was a funny skit, but note the faces in the audience actually lived through what he's trying to ridicule. They aren't laughing. It's not a fucking joke. The skit was written and performed in Russian. A little Russian pop culture lesson. Zelensky became popular after participating in a massively famous comedy competition called KVN, an acronym that stands for the Club of the Funny and the Witty. Wait, what's the next one? Mine froze, fam. You can continue reading the tweet. I'll pull it up.
Oh, it's so small. I have to pull it up.
Yeah, give me a second, Oz, because I don't know why this thing is freezing.
Let me get it up for you. I'm so
sorry.
sorry. This is the 3 tweets in one tweet, right?
Yeah.
Chaotic good. To this day, nothing brings people into Russia together like KVN, which famously was censored for its unapologetic, ruthless political commentary and ridicule of the Russian leaders. Zelensky decided that his team, which was a winner many times, should become its own brand. And that's exactly what happened. Zelensky basically monopolized the comedy scene in the Ukraine. To understand how a comic became a president, one must really understand how important humor is to Russian and Ukrainian people. It was our outlet and our comfort. It made us feel safe. Oftentimes, it was the only outlet that felt genuine, untouched by any censorship. But the element of unity in KVN was important as well, which made Zelensky's comedy brand it made Zelensky's comedy brand emergence symbolic. It was a way of showing Ukraine's independence. It was a political statement. He then signed. You got it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna. Yeah, he then signed a contract with this 1+1 channel, which was owned by Kolomoisky, who largely funded the 2014 revolution. And by funding the 2014 revolution, they're talking about the Azov battalion. He became the governor of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast from 2014 to 2015. Zelensky gained a lot of political power from this partnership. With the exposure of this channel, the show was watched by about 20 million Ukrainian television viewers and as many as 95 million viewers on YouTube. Video clips of Zelensky playing an ordinary teacher who one day becomes the president went viral. People loved it. By the end of 2018, Zelensky was one of the wealthiest, most recognizable people in the entire Ukraine. He owns several mansions in Ukraine, an Italian villa, and a Cyprus-based holding company that operated several media companies in Ukraine and Russia. We joke that he foreshadowed his rise to the presidency with those viral clips, but Zelensky is no ordinary man. He was far from being ordinary or middle class. Zelensky was a billionaire, whereas Russian billionaires nowadays, oligarchs. So, when you always hear about oligarchs, you only hear about the Russian oligarchs. Oh, Putin's an oligarch. All these people are oligarchs. Zelensky is the biggest oligarch, okay? And nobody's talking about that. The next one, Zelensky's campaign was almost entirely virtual, using blogs, online videos, and social media to get his message out. It stood apart from other campaigns by remaining positive, mostly positive and moderate. This is where it really gets nationalist. By positive, Zelensky meant that, for instance, it was wrong to campaign just to ethnic Russian speakers or ethnic Ukrainian speakers, that both were Ukrainians and that Ukrainians should work together. Unity, but on Ukrainian terms. His campaign's official conciliatory position on the controversial language issue was that Ukrainian should be promoted, but Russian should not be banned or discouraged. This implies that there was a strong push for banning and discouraging Russian language among people. But back to this unity. Zelensky's office recently passed the law making Ukrainian country's official language. With this change, his comedy show also started to write and perform in Ukrainian, something that has never been done due to the large Russian-speaking audience. And so eventually, a lot of his Russian fans spoke out against him. And then he went on to, when he was president, he dissolved parliament and called for snap elections. And this idea that he is going to end corruption and rid the country of the oligarchs who cite his nationalist pandering somewhat won him support. But he is one of the oligarchs, so he was never going to do a lot of the things he said out he was going to do. Hoping to fill the parliament with inexperienced lawyers and policymakers, Zelensky's office really is a hollow collection of tweets and YouTube videos. His adored character carried him this far, but as we see it, he is no political or military expert, which makes him dangerous. So when we say that Zelensky is essentially a puppet, from all the information we've gathered from our people that are in the region, from, Mark Sloboda, people that are on RT, people that are on the ground, any sort of analysis, it really matches with this because Zelensky is not in control here. The most control are the nationalists, ultra-nationalists. And when you say ultra-nationalists in Ukraine, they're referring to the neo-Nazi groups. And so it's important that people understand that there's no separation between the people in power and the ultra-nationalists. And Zelensky was essentially created as this high public figure that, was some sort of like gave people hope because he was a politician. gee, where have we seen that before? That he was going to be one of the people, that he was just this regular guy, a teacher. You know, they created this whole idea that he was just a common guy when he was actually a very rich billionaire or an oligarch. And it reminds me so much of what happened with Trump, but also Barack Obama, and also what's happening with AOC and how we formulate these type of characters in order to make them likable to the public and essentially make them electable or selectable, in other terms.
You see what you can do, boys and girls, when you control the media? You can control the narrative, and you can make a billionaire look like a guy who's coming from the grassroots. Trump, Zelensky, please, fam. It's amazing, and it's crazy that he said all this stuff. So much of it was so true, and now it's come to fruition. That's why I thought it was so great when we saw Colonel Douglas McGregor saying, I think he's a puppet.
Yeah.
Because the very next day, Lionel, your friend who you've been on Crossstick with, he said, who is Zelensky taking orders from? That's the question now. They say he's a puppet. Who's controlling Zelensky? Is it the West? Is it directly from the West? Is it his oligarchs? Who knows? I mean, he can end this shit today, right? You know? But as long as he chooses not to, or his owners choose to make sure that he doesn't end this, right? I mean, as much as Marianne Williamson and all these other idiots, people calling him a hero and praising him, and then picking Jeremy Renner to play him in a movie while Sean Penn is trying to friggin' just, you know, help with the, what do you call it, the narrative control. Forget about it. Forget about it. The guy is no bueno. We understand what he's all about right now, and it's time to move on. It's time to move on and stop sitting there and following what the West says simply when they just project what Putin wants or what's really going on. This has nothing to do with imperialism. This has everything to do with nuclear weapons and a proxy on your border controlled by Western interest. That's what this is.
Absolutely, fam.